Dr. Dre, they all came out of Compton, LA, Watts, Long Beach. That's the community that I have worked with since the 90s. On site, front line, different capacities. The Venice, Sierra and Venice, the tennis stars, they came out of Compton. That's the community that I focus my work with.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Very excellent.
Kelly, you're very welcome. Please, Mr. Joshua, we can't see your video. Can you please turn on your camera?
All right, good evening, everyone. I will do that as soon as I can. I'm just it's not yet convenient to do that. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, fine. Please, you can go ahead, Mr. Chinedu, to introduce yourself.
Okay. I am Chinedu Namani. A seasoned broadcaster. I'm a clinical psychologist. I was opportune to have Oba Itoma as a colleague. We worked together in many sphere and aspect of life when I was an undergraduate in university. And I want to say thank you for setting up this meet, mental health and youth empowerment. It is very important because it is one of the most prevalent cases in the society in recent times. And it's very okay that we are doing this so that the youth out there will get to know the implications and things that are associated when mental health are involved and how it can affect their everyday life. And I want to say thank you for setting up this meet. It will go a long way in educating the public on the dangers that is associated with mental health. It is not properly checked. And I also want to acknowledge my fellow panelists. I want to acknowledge the presence of the founder of DLH Enterprise, Danielle and Kelly. I want to say is an opportunity, and it's a great honor to have to be with you here today live and be able to learn a lot from you. And I also want to recognize the legal practitioner in the building. And Joshua Elewa, I say I bow and tremble. So I want to say that is it. I'm a broadcaster, I'm a seasoned clinical psychologist. We deal with mental illness, mental health, how it affects the society and all that. We take holistic view on factors that can predispose, the factors that perpetrate, and the factors that are sustaining most of the things that we see in our society every day. Just like Daniela Kelly mentioned earlier, the people she has worked with, death row and all those kind of stuff. And you know, if you are a student of history, when it comes to rap music, you see that if these issues were sorted out earlier on, they were spoken to. They have people around them to tell them this is the right thing to do and this is not the right thing to do. People that are around them to teach them the nitty-gritties of what ethics is in the society. We could have had a different story. Tupac might still be alive. Notorious B.I.G. might still be alive. And I want to say I'm glad and honored to be here with you guys this evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chinedu. Please, Barrister Oleu, you can just briefly say hello to the viewing audience with your background, just for them to hear from you directly.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Itoma, for having me here. And it's a great pleasure to be on the panel with Kelly and Chinedu. It's an
Thank you.
opportunity to learn from your very wild experience in the area of mental health, both as
Thank you.
consultants and advocates. Uh, when I did peripheral research on the people I'm going to be speaking on this topic with, I was amazed
Yeah.
by the extent of work you've done in the areas you are covering. So kudos to all you are doing, I must say. And thank you very much, Ubai Toma, for organizing this and for all your work so far. I've been following through the various sessions that have been happening since the 30-day Youth Mental Health Awareness Campaign began. And I'm very happy to join the session tonight. My name is Joshua Olewo, as I've been rightly introduced. I am a legal practitioner practicing in Lagos. Uh, while unlike the other panelists, I am not I've not so much been into mental health advocacy and campaigns. I also just have I'm coming in here to contribute my little quota and learn from you guys also. tonight and see how this conversation leads to better awareness of what mental health is about, the dangers, and how best we can navigate it as individuals and as a society. So thank you very much for listening.
All right, thank you, Barrister Joshua. Let us move straight to uh, why we are here today. Kelly will be talking on the Malcolm project, and I understand the Malcolm project focuses on suicide risks among Black males and building pathway for hope. So I want to quickly um, direct this question to you, Kelly.
Okay.
I know a lot of persons are really looking forward to learn about what you're doing, and we want to share from your experience, over 30 years experience in mental health policy, law and policy. So I want to ask this. What moved you to start the Marcom project, and how does it tie into the years you have spent working in mental health law, policy, and advocacy?
Okay. This is the book that we actually put out when we
Mhm.
received our first grant for the Malcolm Project. And I'm
Okay.
very, very proud of it. And the reason why I did this is because I have a clinical background. Even though I don't show license now, I started in clinical. I
Mhm.
taught as an adjunct professor at USC. I have a research background. My field, I've done a lot, and I still do research. And
Mhm.
and I also do probable cause hearings. I've had over 15,000 probable cause hearings, and I mean 15,000. So,
Yeah.
probable cause hearings, that's the legal part, when people have tried to harm themselves, thoughts, actions, they go into an inpatient psych facility. It's against their will. And when I started seeing kids at the age of 8, 15, 12 in these hospitals, I had to do their hearings. And I started asking questions. How long have you been in therapy? And then my next question is, what did you get out of therapy? I graduated from USC in 1993. And unlike most therapists in the United States, I had to have a specialty in children and adolescents because
Yeah.
I was going into schools. So that means I took an additional 46 classes more than the average
Mm.
licensed clinical social worker or psychologist, and psychiatrists don't have them at all. And
Mhm.
I started asking, what did you do? And I found out 9 out of 10 of our children, especially our Black males, they weren't doing anything. They were never trained. And the case that really got to me was this 15-year-old young man. He was sitting in a psych ward for 7 days before I talked to him. And they
Mm.
were trying to give him medication. And I went up to him and I went into my mother mode. Why are you here? Black man, I went into my mother mode. And he said,
Yeah.
I was mad at my dad and I wouldn't talk to anyone. And then I went in, let me get this straight. You've been sitting in this psych ward for 7 days because you were mad?
Mm.
Oh, yes, it's my dad who needs to be here, not me. And he was right.
Right.
So I started asking. So from that alone, I have actually interviewed over 5,000 kids asking, why are you here? What was therapy doing? And I found out there was a gap. And that's why we
Mm.
started the Malcolm project.
Mm.
We started asking the questions. We were funded for 119 respondents where we went out and we asked them. We put them in what is called an engagement research project.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to take up your time, but this is real important. When you read the research, especially the World Health Organization, and they looked at Nigeria and Ghana in 2014, and they really focused on you. When I looked at their methodology, because again, I teach research and I do research, they never talk to you, the Black young man. No one is talking to them. In the United States, they are giving you all this data and they're not
Yeah.
talking to them. And that's why we're here.
Great. 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 That's wonderful. I'm going to come back to you, Kelly. Let me quickly ask Mr. Chinedu. Mr. Chinedu, you'll be looking at depression among young people. So I want to ask this. Please can confirm if you can hear me, Mr. Chinedu.
Loud and clear, I can hear you.
Okay, so I want to ask you, when we talk about youth depression, what are some early signs young people, parents, and even friends should pay attention to?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oba Toma. Mrs. Kelly, Daniela, I appreciate you for your kind words and the things that you've made us know in this few time that you spoke to us. But the issue is that for us to understand the early signs of depression, we must take a historical journey or holistic view of what depression is all about. Because depression has been a subject that has preoccupied us in so many years. And in order for us to do justice to that subject and remain faithful to our chosen topic, which is Youth and Mental Health Awareness Campaign, there's a sense that we must take a historical view on what depression is all about. Now, when we talk about depression, a lot of people misconstitute sadness and normal mood disorder as depression. Now, depression is a mental health condition, and it affects a person's mood. It affects your mood, it affects your energy, it affects your ability to function as an individual, your everyday life. It affects all these things. Now, when people talk about depression, they feel like once you have mood disorder, maybe you had a bad day, that is depression. No, it is not depression. And that brings us to the concept of what we call labeling theory. Because if you cannot understand what we are feeling, how much more can we understand what the impact or the consequences will be? Now, there's something that, just like I told you, that depression is a persistent feeling of sadness, downness in energy, mood disorder, activities that you previously enjoyed, you don't do it anymore. So once you start experiencing this, one can be said to be diagnosed for depression. But now, a lot of people feel like they have depression, whereas they don't have depression. And once people are start saying that you are depressed, when they start telling you are depressed, even though that you feel like I'm down, maybe I had a bad day. That's something. Let me talk about something they call loss of attachment and melancholy. Now, loss of attachment and melancholy to everything that you own, there is an emotional investment towards it. This phone, if you have a phone like the laptop I'm using now to stream, I have a lot of data and a lot of information on it. Automatically, I'm attached to it to an extent. And by chance, I've lost this laptop. There's been severe of attachment to that laptop. And by normal circumstances, under the fault, I'm supposed to feel sad. It is normal for human beings. But once it starts to persist over time, depression or mood disorder, let's not call it depression. Mood disorder is considered normal when it is an adaptive response to stress, when the onset, frequency, and duration is situational appropriate and tolerable. Just like when someone is bereaved, maybe you had an uncle that died or a dad or something, God forbid. It is normal in human nature to feel sad over these issues. But it becomes a problem when it starts to linger over time. That is when we say this is depression. Not when you're in your menstrual cycle, you're having menstrual cramp, and your mood is sour, and maybe you are not feeling fine. You say it's depression. It is not depression. That is simply mood disorder that is expected that you recover from it over time. Another thing, because I'm going to list the causes of depression, just like you asked me the question, what are the early signs? That is, one of the early signs of depression is mood disorder, sleep deprivation. The person involved will not be able to have enough rest, will have sexual dysfunction, sexual activities that one previously enjoys before, the person tends not to like it anymore, the person tends to shy away from it. That is one of the symptoms. Loss of appetite. You won't be able to eat very well anymore. These are the symptoms of depression. And these are part of the signs that we should look out for in youth. But we ask the question, if you are not feeling like you want to eat, will you say it's depression? Because according to MMPI, Minnesota Multifaceted Personality Inventory, that is the scale that is used to diagnose it. 10 points is actually a 9-point scale that is used to diagnose mental illness, psychopathologies. Now, when you, depression is more like a common code to all those things. So when you say you have depression, you must be certain if actually this is depression. So just like I've listed one of the early signs to look out for when someone feels down, when someone
Mm.
feels like he's having depression. It must not be depression. That is where labeling theory comes in. When you label people that they have depression, actually mental illness is not a bad thing. Anyone can have mental illness. We have them from anxiety, we have them from hypochondriasis, we have them from his depression, we have them from
Mm.
hysteria, we have them psychopathic deviants. We have
Mhm.
masculinity, femininity scale 5 has been removed from MMPI, revised version because of gender and all these fluid stuff that has been going on, trying to accept people for who they are. But the fact
Right.
remains that depression can come in various ways. Whether you are having anxiety disorder is a common cause. So you cannot actually say maybe someone might have anxiety, but one of the symptoms of anxiety comes in some of depression. So these are the early signs: loss of appetite, sexual
Great.
dysfunction, sleep
Great.
deprivation. But someone cannot say he has depression just because he's unable to sleep. You can also have depression because once the circadian rhythm is disrupted, circadian rhythm is more like the physiological clock. It's the way your
Mm.
system functions. It's what tells you when to sleep, when not to sleep. Your daily activity revolves around it. Once you start doing a particular thing over time, just like nurses in the hospital, once they
Mhm.
start doing night shift over time, this is their routine. Their system gets accustomed to it. But all of a sudden, maybe you work night for a week, and all of a sudden you stop working night for a week. They pushed it for like 2 weeks. Your physiological clock tends to change, your sleep
All right.
pattern tends to change. We don't say it is depression. So these are the early signs, but we still get to the causes. We have genetic, we have general life
Okay.
experiences, we have medical condition, we have drugs and all those things that can cause depression, and we still get to the youth, how it affects the youth, and this is
Sure.
what
Sure.
we'll be elaborating on this night. Thank you.
Thank you
Mhm.
so very much, Mr. Chinedu.
Mhm.
Mr. Chinedu, it's been a long time from back in UNN. I know
University of
you're a
Nigeria,
very great
Suka.
guy, psychologist. Yes. Let me turn to Mr. Joshua, the legal professional. Mr. Joshua, can you hear me?
Very well, I can.
Hello, Mr. Joshua. Are you there? Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Mr.
Okay,
Sean.
great. So, as a legal professional, I want to put this to you. I want to ask you. Okay, I think the network may be fluctuating. So, I want to ask you this. Can you walk us through the key laws and policies guiding mental health care in Nigeria today? What are the key laws and policies guiding mental health care in Nigeria as of today?
All right, thank you very much. And I must appreciate the other panelists who have spoken on this subject as it regards their different areas. Um, it is important, I must say, to consider, you know, having a conversation around law on matters concerning mental health, because there is this axiom that law regulates every aspect of life. So why not mental health? Okay, so in
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, as it is, I must say that not only do we have a law on that area, we have had
All
some
right.
evolutions in terms of our law. And these evolutions are very important because listening to Mr. Chinedu's presentation so far, he has discussed things particularly of interest to me is when he was talking
Mm.
about labeling theories. Okay. So one of the very
Mm.
basic things that militates against efforts to actually make mental health care progressive in Nigeria is labels, stigma, calling things what they are not, or using
Yeah.
names to actually influence what a thing becomes.
Mhm.
And it might interest us to refer back to history that in the past, Nigeria used to have a lunacy act, which would refer to persons exhibiting signs of, conditions that could be related to mental health as lunatics.
Mhm.
That alone is very heavy to actually label these people for whatever thing that they do or in any way they behave. But pleasantly, I must announce that currently we have stepped out of that circle to a more progressive, more reasonable, and more palatable legal framework. And
Right.
currently, the law governing mental health, there are a lot of laws that will be dealing on the issue of mental health because to regulate a thing, you're not just looking at it as one variable, you're looking at it as something that is existing within a system so that the regulation that you prefer to it would at least attend to the different tentacles that comes with that
Mm.
particular problem. So we currently have a mental health act since 2021, replacing the lunacy act I actually cajoled initially. So
Mhm.
the workings of this mental health act has led us to a mental health policy, a national mental health policy that was designed by the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare in 2023. Okay, and because as Kelly earlier mentioned, in her investigative and advocacy for mental health, helping mental health patients and all that, she usually encounters young people. All right. So the Child Rights Act in Nigeria is also a relevant statute that should govern this because when matters refer to children, certain principles apply.
Mhm.
Mental health, as our discussion so far has been going on, does not only pertain to the old, it does not make reference to the young alone. I know the program we're having is something concerning the youth, but children are very critical components of our population. And we cannot talk about the youth without also looking at them because they are the youths of tomorrow, so to say.
Right.
Okay, so the Mental Health Act is the number one primary legislation. The mental
Mm.
health policy has also come up as an action voice to the Mental Health Act.
Mhm.
And I mentioned the Child Rights Act being a statute in Nigeria and also duplicated across the federating states in Nigeria that seeks
Good.
to uphold the best interest of the child.
Okay.
Mm.
All right. And
Yeah.
we also go to note the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, as one of the critical laws that govern mental health issues in Nigeria. Why do I say this? Because the current mental health basic law, like I mentioned, that's the Mental Health Act of 2021, strives to make provisions to govern and protect the fundamental rights of mental health, persons suffering from mental health issues. Because,
Right.
when a law is discussed, for a law to actually solve a problem, you have to find out what mischief is going on in the society that this law should solve or to give solutions to.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
in the aspects that we have had stigma as a problem, the law is addressing it. In the
Okay.
areas we are having discrimination as a problem, the law is addressing it. In the areas we are having abuse, whether sexual abuse of patients, whether other abuse, taking properties of people who are suffering from these conditions, this law is addressing it. In the
Right.
areas that we are having problems with, because like the other speakers have actually noted, when people go through these things, it causes a dysfunctionality in how they conduct their affairs
Mm.
to such extent that they lose grip of what reality is and how to manage their affairs in the real world. And some of these
Okay.
things can actually result to criminal activities.
Okay.
What we consider as a crime in a particular society. Okay, so why now the level of accountability would now be called to question. If this
Mm.
person is actually suffering from all these conditions, should you hold him accountable?
Mm.
Okay, so I've just mentioned the laws. I don't know if the
Mm.
time would permit us to at least give some snippets of the provisions of this particular basic law while leaving out the others,
Yeah,
so that we'll be properly grounded on its intendments and functionalities in terms of governing mental health in Nigeria.
sure. You are going to talk on that. But before then, let me turn back to Kelly. Um, Kelly, you have worked with thousands of people to understand how culture and society affects men's mental health. From that research and from the Malcolm project, what risk factor stands out as making black males more vulnerable to suicide?
I would say I'm so glad you're asking this question. Me following, the last two presenters, because I'm going to bring it together.
All right.
And you talk about the legal, you talk about the clinical. They were both excellent. And
Mhm.
so when Mr. Chinedu talked about depression, we are
Right.
here in I call it level one. We
Mm.
hear about the word depression, anxiety, but what the Malcolm Project did, but that
Mm.
funding and the accumulation of all the investigations that we were doing
Mhm.
is we found out we needed to go to the level two, which is
Right.
the root cause, the core
Mhm.
phenomenon. What is driving the depression? What is
Right.
driving the anxiety, which we
Mhm.
call a clinical diagnosis of mental disorder or major depressive disorder, dysthymia, or
Yeah.
what is the root cause? And we found out, and I will definitely say my team and we found out a common theme. It
Right.
was, oh, did I lose everyone? You still hear me?
We
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
hear
We
you
can
loud
hear
and
you.
Okay,
clear.
so I can't see you, but I can hear me. What we found out was
Yeah.
purpose. And so when you're talking about culture, the Nigerian
Mm.
culture, the black culture that has changed its name from Negro to black to African American, we have changed our name multiple times.
Right.
You talking about purpose. Who
Mhm.
are you? And then it went down to we did a group where we were talking about racism, and we found out by talking to them in engagement, racism, when I call it's a technique that I just call peel back the onion. When you peel back the onion, these are experiential activities to engage men to talk. And I'm going to talk
Mhm.
about the men because the Malcolm Project focused on the men. It was rejection of the father. Now, if
Mm.
you are trained in psychodynamic theory, or if you
Mm.
appreciate psychodynamic theory, what is the rejection of the father? The physical father goes to the spiritual father.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring in also my background with rape and women. I would always ask them part of the treatment, are you mad at God?
Mm.
We have to address that because I found out, and we found out, the root cause was feeling rejection
Mm.
and rejection of father, rejection of society, and it did it does is that pain they wanted to escape. In the United States, we want to now our clinical professions want to say suicide is the result of a mental illness. It's not. When you
Mhm.
start talking to the people. And I like to bring out books. I also did in Malcolm Project, we started looking at the clinicians.
Okay.
And we found out 7 out of 10 clinicians did not know the groundwork and the father of suicide. Now,
Mm.
whether you agree or not, but you need to know the theories
Right.
because it's not all mental illness. It really is not. And I have seen the gamut. I've seen the pure mentally ill where they told me Well, we were able to catch them. Well, they actually made the attempt, and they went into the psych ward, and they said something came over me, and I couldn't stop myself. And they actually said I saw myself down the bottle of Tylenol. So I have seen the range to a person said, I'm just mad. And they try to hang themselves and it didn't work for some reason. I've had clients that shot themselves in the head and they were in the bathtub and they ended up, they didn't die. The bullet didn't come out. And they're like, and we talked about it. So I've seen the gamut. And they said, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I can honestly say with the Malcolm Project is, from a clinical perspective, we need to start having more conversation to the root cause. And that is why I have this project.
Great.
Start talking to the professionals and holding up the mirror and saying, are you peeling back the onion? Yes.
Wow. That's great. That's excellent. I wish we have a whole lot of time to discuss extensively on that, but we just want to try to touch all the points that has been highlighted for today's conversation. So I just want to give each and every one of you just one minute to touch this area before we conclude. Mr. Chinedu, I want to ask you straight. I want to ask you this question: how does depression, if not properly addressed, affect a young person's daily life, relationship, and future? If not properly addressed, yeah.
Thank you, UBA. I like what Daniela Kelly has said in terms of suicidal ideation. And one of the signature aftermath of depression is suicidal ideation. And I failed to mention that depression is associated with feeling of worthlessness. The future is hopeless and I'm helpless. Yes, see, these are the symptoms of depression which can lead to, these are the symptoms which can have unintended consequences like suicide, like she said. But everything is not always about, I beg to disagree to an extent when she said about spiritual things and people want to do things and it's not working. Now, biologically speaking, there's something we call the catecholamine and indollamine theories of depression. In the catecholamine theory implicated norepinephrine, dopamine, and epinephrine. Now, these hormones are hormones that neurotransmitters that are responsible for the way why we eat, why we're excited, why we do what we do, and the low secretion of these biogenic amines in the right places at the right time can make person be depressed, because when these hormones that can make you eat, feel excited, go out and do things are not the motivations, they are responsible for motivations. When these hormones are not functionally as it's supposed to be due to enzymatic degradation or reuptake, the person tends to be depressed. Now, secondly, we have the indollamine hypothesis. The indollamine hypothesis specifically implicated serotonin. Now, the serotonin is a hormone that is responsible for appetite. It's a hormone that is responsible to an extent, it contributes about sex and all those things. When there is under functionality due to maybe reuptake or enzymatic degradation or genetics or general life style, maybe the kind of things you've exposed yourself to, drugs and all those things can actually make these hormones malfunction, and in turn it leads to depression. And when someone is feeling worthless, when someone is feeling worthless, when someone is feeling like the future is hopeless and life is meaningless, the next thing they think about is depression. So coming to your question, how depression can affect life, remember that the topic is youth and mental health awareness campaign. Now, it affects daily life. Now, people that are suffering from depression, they are unable to complete tasks. Now, even if you are to empower the youth, because you know that 90%, 70% of Nigerian population is the youth between the age of 25 to 45. So once you are a youth and you are having this depression as a struggle, now, even if you are motivated, even if you are empowered, you will not be able to complete those tasks. You will not be able to achieve anything meaningful. Most of the time, you see them wake up, they don't dress their bed, they sit down, they smoke, they drink, they do a lot of things. At the end of the day, they go back to bed without all those things. So whatever effort that you're putting towards that individual is just a waste of resources. And also, it affects the family. Now, family is our basic support system. And
Right.
family, that is where you have the people that knows you. Because once a child is born, the first thing the child does is to identify with the primary caregiver. When Dr. Kelly was talking about the psychodynamic theory of Sigmund Freud, is actually a theory of development. Now, at the stage, also it's linked to Eric Erickson's psychosocial theory of development, whereby when a child is born, the child develops the virtue of trust to the primary caregiver, which is if the care is consistent, favorable over time, the child will develop a virtue of trust, which goes a long way to give that child hope, even when things are not going the way that child wants or that individual, when the person becomes an adult. At least the stage of their development, they were not visited. At least they know that even if okay, I can be able to navigate these challenges. Just like she said, an African man, a black man, most of the time, due to society, racism, and all those things, the care and support and attention they got from the community, the people around, is not consistent. It is not favorable. Today, it is favorable. Today, tomorrow, it's not favorable. Inconsistency develop the virtue of mistrust. The people cannot trust anybody. And once they start experiencing these challenges, it leads to this depression. And once this depression occurs, the end product is suicide. So, having said all these things, now the family, which is the basic support system, when you're suffering from depression, what does this individual do? They withdraw. They withdraw from the family. They withdraw from the basics and support system, keeping to themselves. Nobody is able to talk to them because if actually there's a lot of things that talking does. Because in my home, my mom makes it very mandatory and very important that every Sunday, everybody, all of our children must be at home. We have food, enjoy ourselves. She just talks to us, being the mother, and old people, how they behave. So it goes a long way, even if you're feeling like she's being overbearing, it goes a long way to support you. Maybe after hearing her say things, and she's very spiritual. And to an extent, I agree with Kelly, the spiritual has a lot of things to do with these things. Because sometimes you see things that you don't know that is not supposed to be the way it is. It is happening. I've seen where they shot someone growing up in Onitsha, Anambra State, one of the most gang-prone area when it comes to Africa. Growing up, I saw most of my friends murdered, shot as a result of gang violence and all that. But at the end of the day, you see that most of them is as a result of the life they were exposed to. Another thing I want to say about depression and how we are faced with empowerment. In Africa, we don't take therapy seriously. You're a social worker. I've seen you once at Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Enugu, where you are doing all this, your intake and all this stuff that you guys do. They don't take therapy seriously. They don't feel like talking to people. In this part of the world, that's most psychologists and most psychiatric doctors here end up being poor. People don't see it as a profession. And one thing they fail to understand is that all of these life challenges that you have over time, if it is not properly resolved but suppressed, you become a walking time bomb. All it needs is a trigger. Maybe you were abused as a child, you didn't resolve it, you didn't talk it out, you didn't confront your fears, you didn't talk to your parents, see what you did to me when I was like this age and all that, and you didn't resolve it. Growing up as a man or a woman, you entered an intimate relationship, you had your heart broken, it was not resolved. In this part of the world, we always form like we are strong, that we can handle anything. But in reality, emotions are just like a wild wind. So you didn't resolve that issue. You got into the university. You know how African university, Nigerian university is, where lecturers intimidate students. A lecturer failed you because you refused to sleep with him or her, or because you were not able to sort her, pay her off or him off for because maybe you want to pass a course. And at the end of the day, you failed that course, you have to repeat it. You did not resolve these emotions, you did not talk it out, you did not go to therapy for all these things you're feeling. What happens? You become rigid, it compiles. All it needs is a trigger, maybe one event that is inconsequential, one event that is not significant might happen to you, it triggers all these things. So that is where you see people engaging in activities, violence, trying to take it out. Defense mechanism. One thing about depression and all this mental health illness and how it affects the youth is that defense mechanism is normal, whether you agree or not, whether you do it willingly or unwillingly. Defense mechanisms are those mental activities that individuals design that helps them cope with stress. Some people is violence, some people is drugs, some people is alcohol. So in a situation whereby all these issues you have had in life we are not resolved, we are not properly resolved, but you suppressed it and it became an issue later, maybe it exploded. What happens? You resort to the defense mechanism that you best know how to cope with. Maybe drugs. At the end of the day, if you take drugs, for example, maybe psychoactive drugs or psychodysleptic drugs, those drugs that alter the activities of the central nervous system, causing alteration in perception, mood, and thought. What do? You rape someone. What do? You murder someone. What do? You commit suicide. All these things are the issues that we face in this our contemporary society, and the youth bear the blunt. So I would also like to continue if you are able to give me enough latitude, but time is not on our side.
I
So I'll have to
understand.
stop here for the barrister Joshua to I have to
Yes.
pass the baton
Yes,
to
yeah,
barrister Joshua to give
I
justice to the
really want
discussion.
to. I really want to appreciate you. I made a post today concerning the fact that none of us uh, was born, as a bad person or as an evil person, but because of the circumstances surrounding us,
Mm.
sometimes people change based on the
Nurture,
experiences they've got over time. So I want
nurture,
to
nurture.
agree with you. Yes, that the nurture, the environment, the environmental influence that you know um, people experience, the experiences that people had over time. It has a way of influencing their behavior. So I want to agree with you, and I want to appreciate how you've been able to talk on that extensively. Let me turn to the barrister on legal matters. Mr. Joshua, I want to ask you. I know you wanted to, highlight further your last comment on the Nigerian policy guiding mental health, but I'm just trying to run so that we'll meet up. I understand Mr. Chinedu wants to anchor a radio program by 10, and also Kelly too. I want to appreciate you people greatly for this time. And let me ask you, Mr. Joshua Esquire, what challenges do you see in translating this legal protection into everyday practice? The legal protection, we will talk about the policies guiding mental health, mental health care in Nigeria. So I want to look at what are the challenges you see in translating this legal protection into everyday practice.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been quite amazing listening to Kelly and Chinedu. So far, it's been
Thank
quite
you.
educating for myself, who is also here to discuss. And I'm very certain that all those who have joined this program are also learning. And
Sure.
not only learning, they are getting empowered to educate the other persons because
Right.
this issue of lack of love in the society, lack of care in the society, lack of
Mhm.
sensitivity to these issues. It is the duty of not just the social workers, not just the lawyers, not just the psychologists, not just for anyone advocating expressly for them, but it's the duty on the shoulders of all of us as
Mhm.
members of the society. So thank you
Right.
very much. I to just get to the challenges, I will speak on two things. There are a
Mm.
lot more, but I will speak on two things for time's
Right.
sake. But before I
Mhm.
go into that, let me highlight what Kelly said. That before you actually engage in any of these things, suicide and all, you have to verify the root cause of this. And
Right.
from her perspective and from Chinedu's perspective as a psychologist, they have touched on several things. So that when I'm talking about stigma and cultural misconceptions of this mental health issue, we can also relate back to the root causes because we find the
Oh.
Did we lose the
Uh,
barrister?
I
That is Nigerian
know.
factor.
That's the
That is
point.
Nigeria. That is Nigerian factor for you.
oh my God. Oh my God. I can understand maybe the
Inconsistency,
network.
inconsistency in the power supply. It can cause
Yeah.
depression.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's one of those things that can cause, depression and can
Trigger
affect your
mental
mental
illness.
well-being.
I
Yes.
know she was right there. Good point. I was like, oh yes,
Right. Yeah, but I hope he will join us back. I
I
hope
do.
he will join. Okay. Yeah, I think he's trying to join back.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh. So, we'll try to see how to connect him back. I think it's network. While we wait for Mr. Joshua
Yes.
to join back, let me quickly rush back to Kelly. Miss Kelly, what's with your experience across hospitals, schools, and even the legal system? How can institutions like school or court actually use the lessons from the Malcolm Project to better support young men at risk?
You know what? I would like to make a statement, and then I'll answer your question to
Right.
Dr. Mr. Chinedu and Mr. Joshua, because I want to bring it all together. One thing when we're talking about root causes, you made a statement
Mhm.
that no one is born bad. I
Right.
have
Yeah.
literally had, guess how old my youngest murderer was?
Mm-hmm.
20.
Uh, 8.
8.
8.
8. Killed his sister.
Hmm.
My mentor, Dr. Andre Tweed, God rest his soul. Guess how old
Hmm.
his youngest murderer was?
Mm-hmm.
5.
That's right. You read the case?
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, read the case. Dr. Andre Tweed, I was blessed to be his last mentee. And I want to say
Mm.
blessed because he gave me all of his information, as much as information he could, before
Okay.
he passed on. So I want to say this.
Uh-oh.
We are seeing in the United States, and we cannot rule out when we're talking about people being bad. We have
Right.
sociopaths and psychopaths being born.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Mr. Chinedu made a statement. I want everyone to listen to this, that we
Right.
cannot. Good. I'm going to get off in a moment. Mr. Chinedu made
Yeah.
a statement. Drugs
Welcome.
is
Yeah.
affecting neurobiology.
Mm-hmm.
Drugs is affecting the consciousness. So I'm going to go back to our barrister because I wanted to hear what he has to say. But to tie it
Right.
all together, the law has to address that as well.
Mm-hmm.
That we do have people that are sociopaths, psychopaths.
Right.
And how does the law address that? Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to our barrister.
Okay. Barrister
Welcome back,
Joshua,
barrister.
you're very welcome. We can understand the network affected your connection. We just hope that does not affect your mental health. Okay,
Well,
you can
well,
proceed. We were actually looking at the challenges uh, you see in translating this legal protection into everyday practice.
okay. Thank you very much. I
Mm.
appreciate everyone for even waiting for me and for the opportunity to get back on this. I was trying to
Right.
talk about stigma and cultural misconceptions, which leads us
Mm-hmm.
back to the labeling theories, where people are mislabeled A or B because of certain exhibitions of character and all that,
Mm-hmm.
not giving attention to the root causes or what these things actually are. And I
Mm.
earlier on mentioned that hinging on the presentation of the other speakers on finding out the root causes of these things, because when you find the root causes and they are issues of drugs and what have you, then we should rely on treatment, the proper treatment.
Mm.
And when we find out that the root cause is from family detachment from the social circles that should actually be there, ideally, then we should look at community based approaches in bringing these people back into the society, that the
Right.
reintegration, because treatments in the aspect of a mental health issue is not complete until there is a reintegration of that person into the society that they are off from, so to say.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
we encounter a challenge. We cannot get to these places if the misconception and the cultural labeling we give to these things still persist.
Mm.
So that is the challenge. In as much as the law is saying, treat this person, let us adopt a treatment mechanism and not discriminate. The society at large are still hinging closely on, very tightly, on issues of discrimination. Some people call it witchcraft. Some others
Mm.
consider it a punishment for certain
Yeah,
sins
that's
you've
the
committed.
phenomenological model. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
That this is a punishment for sins you've committed, for this and all of that. Neglecting the root causes of these things. That was why I said in my opening for this question, there is a duty on all of us so that if
Mm.
I encounter someone misspelling these things, I should be able to put corrections to it. Another thing
Mhm.
is rigidity, and
Right.
I dare to say uninformed rigidity in taking,
Mm.
taking hold of what is happening. Mr. Chinedu spoke about it. People having their own ways of dealing with things.
Mhm.
Now it forms rigidity around them. They think they are getting it right. They think they are solving the problem until
Right.
a threshold is met where they can't handle it again.
Mhm.
Suicide,
Right.
other criminal activities, and because it has gone overboard.
Right.
Now, where is this rigidity coming from? Aside from individual decisions to take care of things in certain ways, society and training is actually causing it,
Mm.
contributing to it.
Mhm.
How is the male child brought up in Nigeria? You're a strong man. Men don't cry. These things. You have to take care of this way, and all of that.
Right.
The society has engineered your mind to take care of things. You talk to someone is a
Exactly.
sign of weakness.
Mhm.
The Igbos will say kwechiri, they use that phrase a
Yeah.
lot,
You have to
which
explain that
commun
into Barrister to Miss Kelly. What is Kochili in Igbo?
yes,
You
yes,
need to explain that.
that goes to explain that no matter the circumstance, you should just hold tight to yourself. You shouldn't just give in, so to
Men
say.
are not allowed to
While
cry here.
men are not allowed to cry, and that is why you see most of them giving into drug as a way of getting
Coping
themselves
mechanism.
calm. And
Yes.
by the time they get into that situation of being controlled by those substances, other activities will follow. It
Right.
will take over there. So these two things are predominant issues in our society today that has even made the knowledge of the existence of such law and its provisions to protect persons with mental health conditions very impossible. Are the churches, the mosque, are they aware of what actually mental health issues are? Because most times these people come to be the closest place that some persons will relate to when some of these issues start coming up. And
Mhm.
because they have neglected or they don't even know the root causes of these things, they label it another thing,
They
thereby.
end up blaming the devil.
Exactly. So these are
Mhm.
challenges. We are still battling with people being progressive in thought to accept science, psychology, and some of these other traceable and empirical causes of things. We are between that and people wholly clinging on spiritual matters as the
Mm.
problem. Because when you cannot determine a spiritual problem and you are facing it physically or scientifically,
Mhm.
that's the dilemma. There's a
Yeah.
paradox there. Exactly.
Uh,
So, how is the law going to function when spirituality has taken over the other
Over.
aspects? While I understand that there is a role of such in a person's
Mhm.
life and which can also help in this, it shouldn't be 100%. So
Right.
in Nigeria, as it is, the stigma and the misconceptions that these things are bringing up, and also the rigidity, the uninformed rigidity that people are coming up with in training, cause these things.
Mm.
They cause even the law from having its effect.
Mhm.
Because a family that has already taken the predicament of their daughter or their son
Yeah.
to be a spiritual problem, and they have decided to take it on the spiritual way, when Mr. Etoba here or Mrs. Kelly comes up as mental health advocates and clinician to try to offer help to these people, it will be rejected. It will not be allowed.
Mhm.
So, what makes these things thrive in the society is acceptance, is awareness, is understanding of all these things. Let us conceive it rightly first and understand that some models of training, in as much as Nigerians go by, boasting in being tough and all that. We should pull ourselves back to understand that the toughness we refer to is not actually costing us.
Mm.
So, to such extent that some persons who are suffering from these conditions either shy away from it to avoid being called weak, to avoid being mislabeled as witchcrafts, whatever it
Mm.
is, or even ritualists. Because
Thank
there
you
are
so much.
certain things you'll be doing as a person who is passing through a lot. You'll be thinking,
Mm.
oh, who knows what this person have done? Who knows what is, and
Come on.
people would buy
I,
instead of
I just
helping, they would dissociate from the person, and that is making everything difficult. So these things, while they are still predominant in the society, it does not help the application of the law. We can go to
mm.
talk about inadequate funding, can go to talk about lack of professionals that can handle these things within our system. But I feel, what if we can fix stigma and the training of our people, so to say, we can
Mm.
actually begin to make the first set of steps towards getting it right on the basis of law.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add something when you were talking about stigma. I witnessed a situation in a rural area where I serve as a national health fellow, where the elderly uh, woman was experiencing. I understand from the symptoms that this is a case of dementia. But within the neighborhood, the surrounding, the people she find herself with, they consider her to be a witch, that she's probably suffering from, the wickedness she have, done over time when she was young. And because of that level of ignorance and stigma, this person, is not given opportunity to, have the right therapy. They end up labeling you and make you to remain in silence and die inside, not really understanding that this is a case that have uh, uh, you know uh, that can be resolved through therapy and professional counseling and therapy. So they end up blackmailing you and labeling you and stigmatizing uh, with their experience of spirituality, because here everything is considered spiritual. Somebody commits a crime, rather than looking at the root cause, what triggered that person, just like Chinedu have mentioned in the past, that depression can actually trigger a lot of things. Rather than looking at that, people will just end up you know saying that is the devil, that you committed a crime, and the person that committed such a crime can come out boldly to say that he's sorry, that it's actually the devil that led him or her to commit that crime. And when we ask, how can we see the devil to really verify how he contributed in your attitude or your behavior, we can't find that. So just like Mr. Joshua has said, that is one of the reasons why this campaign is very important, trying to educate our people to understand that these little things that are being neglected, that are ignored, they are very vital to helping people with mental health issues, to restore back, to get them back, and reintegrate them into the society. So I'm very, very, very grateful with this conversation. I just um hope that time could permit us to really do a lot. This conversation was meant to last for 45 minutes, and I can see that we really exhausted the time. But just to wrap it up, just in 1 minute, I just want each and every one of you to talk about, look at your area. Just 1 minute, say something on Joshua, as you looking at the legal foundation of mental health in Nigeria. So I just want to put this last question to you. I know we have a whole lot to talk about, but let's just pick this point and then wrap up. So, for you, Mr. Joshua Esquire, are there examples? Okay, let's look. Let's with that. Let me look at why we are looking ahead. What reforms or policies shift? What reforms or policies shift are most urgent to strengthen mental health care in Nigeria as a legal professional? we are looking at the way forward now. So what are the policy shifts that are most urgent to strengthen mental health care in Nigeria? Just in 1 minute, you can just say something on that area.
All right, thank you very much. Uh, like you said, there are a lot to talk about, but to wrap it up
Mm-hmm.
on the shifts we should have,
Mm-hmm.
I feel strongly that where there is a formalized partnership, I'm not talking
Right.
about partnerships on paper, where there is a very proactive, active, and formalized partnership between
Mm-hmm.
the ministries of governments that the laws have actually given the authority to do this, right? With community organizations and religious organizations to first educate them on what these things are. The first contact for such partnerships should not be to identify the people having these conditions and help them. Let
Mm.
there be robust education on the root causes of these things, the signs, the symptoms, and the very first steps to help. By the time we achieve this, we will find
Mm.
out that the problem is not a lack of laws, but the lack of sufficient action to actually execute them.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
also the issue of ignorance of what these things are, because we have been talking
Right.
about our experiences of people being mislabeled and all that. The Mental
Right.
Health Act I talked about actually prohibits and makes it an offense because the act has said do not discriminate on these people, do not conduct social and so treatment. Even the professionals who are handling them and all that, they have certain codes of ethics that if they breach, that would be an offense. And as a matter of fact, you could have, be liable to as much as 6 months in prison or upon conviction, some 200,000 naira fine. That's a very little amount to deter
Mm-hmm.
people from doing that. But, anyways, the law has criminalized any infringement of the rights of persons who have mental health conditions. How would we
Right.
know this if their campaigns are not taken to the grassroots, to the communities? Because
Mm-hmm.
these are actually the people whom most of the persons who are suffering from these conditions may not get to professionals like Kelly or professionals like Chinedu or professionals like Mr. Toma. They may stop at the community level with their parents, with the social
Mm.
circles around them, within their churches. And yet,
Mm-hmm.
these people who are the first call for the
Mhm.
victims or the patients are not
Mm.
knowledgeable about what actually is happening to these people. So how then can they render help?
Right.
So that's one thing I think that's very formalized and proactive and active partnership that is
Right.
continuing, not a one-time basis, that is
Mm-hmm.
continuing to actually get it embedded in people's thinking and consciousness that this is
Right.
some very critical matter to attend to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Quickly, let me uh, come back to you, Miss Kelly. So, at the heart of the Marcom project, we are looking at the way forward now. At the heart of the Marcom project, which is hope. So, for you, from what you have seen, your experience, what
Mhm.
real practical solutions, whether through communities, families, or partnership, can make a difference in lowering suicide rate among Black males?
Okay. First of all, I say thank you for having me a part of this panel because I think it is so important.
Mhm.
And what moving forward with the Malcolm Project for giving me a platform to talk about it.
Right.
It's education, and it's just what Mr. Joshua stated:
Mhm.
robust education. But we're finding out, and what we have found out, and I have found out, is the professionals. The
Right.
professionals need constant education, like this type of platform where they're talking, they're
Right.
exchanging information, because spirituality and committing a crime
Mhm.
is still rooted in Colbert's moral reasoning, which is coming out of the field of psychology, which is the study of human behavior. They
Right.
all link together. They all link together. The dopamine, the serotonin that Mr. Chinedu had talked about, that is all linked together. We do need robust education. So what we're bringing from Malcolm Project is what we're finding out, talking to the families, talking to the family member that says that the devil did it, bring it into human behavior, psychological, psychodynamic terms, but it's all really internal locus of control versus external locus of control. And we are going to start rolling out training programs, where professional training programs, meaning that they're going to get their professional development CEUs, so we can do what the law says, which is supposed to provide appropriate and effective treatment. That is where we're seeing gaps. And that is how we can stop the rise of suicide in our cultures. We have to get hold to the therapists. And we have to give them ongoing, and they understand all these dynamics. And I want to say this last thing, and I know I had a minute. My culture, my family comes from Louisiana Creole. So you know we believe in voodoo. If you know anything about us. And I had a client that was from Mexico, and he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And he was in this room by himself in seclusion, and he had drawn this picture. And he looked tormented, and he said, the devil came and talked to me. Do you believe me?
Right.
My human behavior had to come on. My Louisiana had came on and said, yes, I do, and I'm Catholic. And I did this. And I said, oh, Lord, we got to pray on this one. Let me tell you, you can see the torment change. I left and went to church and lit a candle, but you can see the difference. So that is why education is important for everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kelly, for that beauty. Thank you so much. It's funny. Mr. Chinedu, just one last thing from you. I sincerely apologize that your time is being taken. In your view, what simple but effective solution can young people and communities adopt to tackle depression and build stronger mental health?
Okay, thank you, UBA. Thank you, Barrister Joshua and Miss Kelly. You guys have done an amazing job doing justice to this discussion this evening. But I want to touch one or two things. I want to talk about the laws that the barrister said that has criminalized criminalized and stigmatizing against people with mental health. And I want to also talk about the issue of Miss Kelly talked about locus of control of behavior. So the issue with not guilty reason of insanity, that is NGRI, is a law that said that people with mental illness cannot actually be held accountable for actions that they carried out while they were having their episodes. But I think that law should be looked at seriously, because a lot of people in the society, even though there is a counter law to GBMI, guilty but mentally ill, in Nigeria, a lot of people commit crimes and keep it under the pretense that they are mentally not stable, so they can get away with it. In our country, Nigeria, where everything goes, you see someone intentionally rape someone. I've had a case where someone murdered the girlfriend, and when the case was brought before the court of law, the person was pleading guilty that he was having anxiety. And one of the point of call, the first thing with someone with anxiety disorder does is to attack, forgetting that in research, clinical researches, people with anxiety, the first point of defense for them is to flee from object that brings anxiety. But in this case, he raped and murdered the girlfriend, saying that is actually the anxiety, the episode. So I feel like that law should be looked at. We should be held accountable of their actions, whether they are mentally stable or not. You can be held accountable for your action. You can be guilty even though that you're mentally ill, and not be guilty, not guilty because you're mentally ill. That one aside, the locus of control of behavior, external locus of control behavior talks about the external influence that influences people's behavior. And I must say that nature goes a long way in determining how people turn out. Most of the people assume that they're having mental illness, even though they are not, just to get away with some excesses they carry out in the society. And I want to talk about, and there was something Miss Kelly said about people being born as psychopaths and sociopaths. I actually agree with you, but in our field of work, we don't call them psychopaths if they are not of the age of 18, because you cannot label them as psychopaths. We call them unemotional, cold, kids. These are children that actually do things that marvel you, things that flabbergast you as an adult. And there are signs. Once you have a child, like the case that I've read that she talked about, a 5-year-old that murdered the sister, there have been signs, but the parents do not pay attention to it. They do not take cognizance of it. That is why it's very important that education, that's why we talk about education, awareness campaign, that you should preach and teach these signs. Once you see a child and the child beheads the toy, you see all those toys they buy for kids, you see a child beheading his or her toy, that child has a psychopathic tendencies or a sociopathic tendency. Once you see a child, if you give that child a bread, the child will bite it to the shape of a gun. I've seen people, any object they give them to, they will shape it like a gun or a knife. Those children have psychopathic or sociopathic tendencies. So these are the issues I felt like that parents should look out for. And I think one of the solutions is to seek professional help. When you seek professional help, first of all, one of the sources of any therapeutic section to any mental illness or psychological issues that people experience is by the individual accepting that he or she needs help. Once you're able to accept that you need help, that is why you seek therapy, and not the one you were coerced or forced to do, that you've solved half of the problem. Another one is to initiate therapeutic alliance. The therapist and the client should set the goal. This is what we want to achieve, and this is it. And also, I think that community support is very important. Apart from family support, your family will always support you no matter what, because you are their own. So some family support is important. Community support is paramount. So this community should come together and also find a way to support people who have these issues and not try to avoid themselves from them, isolate themselves. Because when I talked about defense mechanism, I mentioned some defense mechanism. I did not mention projection. I did not mention isolation effect. I did not mention avoidance. One of the things you should look out for people with these things, one of the signs you look out for people with mental issues, that they project their thoughts to people. Let's say I'm kleptomanic. Let's say I'm kleptomanic. I like this taking things that does not belong to me, even though I can afford them. And let's say I'm in this studio this night, and you and I, Oba, work in the same place. And the time of closure for work is 6 o'clock, and 6 o'clock has passed, and it's 9 o'clock, and I've not left, and you're still here. What I should do, if I'm planning to steal a laptop or something, I'll first of all project that thought to you. Oh, but this one, you're still here by this time of the night. Are you sure you're not planning to steal a laptop? That is one of the signs you should look out for people with these issues. Also, they try to reaction formation. Let's say that person is a serial rapist, and some of these things has to do with mental disorder. Once you talk about rape, they tend to criticize it more than they should. They are reacting because they're suspecting that maybe you are talking about it because you're suspecting them. So look out for all these signs. So lastly, I will say that people should be proactive, and people should not reduce stigmatization when it comes to people with these mental health issues. It is very important so that we'll be able to navigate these issues and provide solutions effectively and efficiently as a society. And I want to say thank you, UBA. When you told me about this program, I was supposed to feature in last weekend, but because of time was not friendly with me, I was not able to come. But I'm happy that I was in this segment meeting Barrister Joshua, who has spoken extensively on it. And I want to appreciate Danielle Kelly. Actually, you are well endowed intellectually in these issues. You have the nitty-gritty of what it takes to actually tackle these issues. And I want to say thank you for being in this panel with us. And that is all I have to say. I believe that everyone listening to us out there, having listened to all of us, you actually be able to know when you see these signs. If someone is actually around you and if somebody is not eating, the person is sad, please do not label that person. Do not stigmatize that person. Actually talk to the person. Humanistic approach, the musical chair theory of mental illness. Try to place yourself in that person's shoe and place the person in your own shoe. If you were him and he is you, how will you judge it? Try to see it from your own angle. Don't criticize. One love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is beautiful. I wish we have all the time to continue this conversation, but I understand how busy uh, you guys are, and I appreciate you all so much. In fact, Kelly, I appreciate you a lot. Getting to meet you on LinkedIn, and we chatted, and you're enthusiasing to join and contribute your experience. I want to say I appreciate you, and I believe that the listening audience have learned so much from this conversation. So, Mr. Joshua has been my friend from day one. We've been there in the struggle. We've had mental health issues. We've overcome.
Oh, but is Mr.
So,
Joshua a lion?
of course,
He's a small lion.
he started from UNN and he went to UNEC.
Oh, oh,
Clearly, these are my great guys from the university. We all schooled in the same university, University of Nigeria, and it's been a pleasure having them on board. I must say that I'm very excited. When they came, they saw how furious I was because of the little inconveniences I had to, confront in the course of airing out this program. So I want to appreciate you people. I hope to do this again with you people if time permits. I want us to, from time to time, just like the recommendations have been made, that we need more of programs like this to educate the public for them to understand what these things are all about, the signs they should look out for, and why they shouldn't label someone facing mental health issues. Because I've seen these things; they are around us, especially in Africa. Kelly, you are coming from the West, from United States. I believe you have your own share of experience, but for us here, they've said it all. Here, people, when you cry as a man, they downplay you. They wonder why you should do that. So we see how we struggle. We are a product of struggle. Everything here is struggling, and if you're seen down emotionally, you're seen like you're considered a weak person. So I want to really appreciate you people because you've made them to understand that it's not true, and everybody is prone to have mental health issues. And just like Chinedu have said, we must resort to professional help, for us to be able to have a healthy life and a healthy society. So I want to appreciate you people. I look forward to reading some of your books, Kelly. I want to follow you up, and I want us to continue from there to keep this relationship moving forward. So thank you so much for coming on board. I look forward to this conversation again in our future endeavor. Mr. Joshua, thank you so much. Mr.
Thank
Chinedu,
you for having me.
thank you so much. From here to our audience, thank you for joining, and we hope to continue this conversation in the last days of the program. This program will be ending by 12th of October. So before 12th of October, we hope to have another session where you will have the opportunity to learn. Thank you, thank you, thank you. From
Thank
here,
you
we'll
very
draw the
much.
curtain and say bye-bye to you all. Have a pleasant day to you, Kelly, and a pleasant night to
thank you
my
all.
Nigerian friends.
Thank
One
you.
love.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you.
Kelly,
bye-bye.
Bye,
Chinedu,
everyone.
and Mr. Thomas.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Comrade Thomas.